Howdy, my name is Garand and I work on protocol here at the Stellar Development Foundation. As a protocol engineer, I spend a lot of my day thinking about security, and so this tweet caught my eye the other day. A rogue validator on Flashbots seems to be exploiting MEV bots, over $25 million USD already stolen. So I'd like to take some time today to talk about what happened with this particular attack on the Ethereum network, and what steps we're taking at Stellar to make sure this doesn't happen over here. This is Straight Facts with Stellar. These days, it seems like no one really talks about consensus. You have your older blockchains like Bitcoin that use proof of work, an inefficient, slow, expensive, and overall out-of-date consensus algorithm. And then you have the newer blockchains, such as Solana or Ethereum, that use proof of stake, which promises to be more efficient, faster, and just as secure as proof of work. I believe that both of these consensus algorithms have fundamental issues that are solved by Stellar's novel proof of agreement consensus algorithm. Let me talk a little bit about how consensus works. So you have these validators or computers that make up your network that need to agree on something. How this works is that whenever a block is about to be produced, the network will choose one validator to be the block leader. The block leader will then choose what transactions to be included in the next block, as well as what transactions are emitted, and order these transactions. Once that block has been constructed by the single leader node, that leader then gives the block to all the other validators on the network. At this point, the entire network will then check the block, make sure that each transaction is legitimate, and if it is, those transactions will all be applied, and then we will move on to the next block. While it's not talked about much, these block leaders actually have a lot of power. They decide what transactions get in, what transactions don't get in, and more importantly, the ordering of those transactions. So this should be something that's pretty trustworthy, right? You can't just have random people being block leaders because that would be too powerful and they could potentially steal money. So to solve this issue, what proof of stake does is it requires a ticket to entry, which is called a stake. Essentially, in order to be one of these block leaders, a validator needs to put up a deposit in some asset, usually the local currency, such as Ethereum. And essentially, if the block producer misbehaves, this deposit is taken away from them. The thinking being that this deposit discourages malicious activity, they would lose their money, and it would be too expensive to attack. The issue is in practice this doesn't work. Now what happened in this particular attack on the Ethereum network that targeted the Flashbots is that the attackers paid their entry fee. They put down their $10,000, give or take, of stake, and then executed this attack. Once the attack was discovered, these validators were slashed. That means that the network realized that they were malicious and took their deposit. Even in losing the $10,000 deposit, the attackers were able to steal $25 million of stablecoins. This shows the fundamental security flaw of proof of stake. The deposits simply aren't big enough to actually protect the values being transferred. The deposits are usually in something like Ethereum or Bitcoin, but the assets being traded these days are stablecoins with real-world assets, such as US dollars, treasuries, which are worth much more than the underlying cryptocurrency that's supposedly securing them. And to be clear, this is not just a bug in a particular implementation. This sort of attack is fundamental to the way proof of staking works. The fundamental issue with proof of stake networks is that all the validators are anonymous, and so you don't know who to trust. Anyone can put down the entry fee and become a block producer. This is not the case on Stellar. On Stellar, we recognize that block producers have huge amounts of authority over the network, and they need to be trusted individuals. There is no proof of stake, which means that there is no entry fee to being a validator. However, we still don't let any random person become a validator. Stellar works on something called proof of agreement. What this means is that in order to be a block producer or to be a validator, someone must trust you that already is a validator on the network. In this way, no random entity that could be malicious can join just because they paid $10,000, but rather they have to be trusted by someone who's already a trusted member of the network. I want to be very clear, this is not centralized. There is no security council. Any person on the network can invite anyone they want, but you do have to be invited by someone. This prevents a large range of attacks, such as the $25 million MEV boost attack that happened on Ethereum, but also other forms of attacks. So if you're interested in a blockchain where transactions are treated fairly and validators aren't skimming profit off the top of your transactions, in my opinion, there's no network more committed to fairness than Stellar.